Good evening and welcome to the January 16th meeting of the City of Vista Planning Commission. You'd please rise and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance led by thank you. All
right, ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Commissioner Garrison. Joni, would you call the roll, please?
Let the record reflect that all planning commissioners are present, as well as one student commissioner, Manuel Martinez.
Very good. Commissioners, before you are the minutes from the meeting of December 5th. Are there any corrections to the minutes? If not, could we hear a motion to approve? Commissioner Kramer?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. If there are no changes by the other commissioners, I move to approve the minutes as they're written.
Very good. Commissioner Carroll?
I'll second the motion.
Very good. It's been moved and seconded to approve the minutes from December 5th. Please cast your vote. And the minutes are approved unanimously. Mr. Conley, any changes to the agenda this evening?
No changes to the agenda this evening, Chairman.
All right, very good. The next item on our agenda is oral communications. This is a time on the agenda that we set aside for people to address the Commission on items that are not on the agenda. I have no speaker slips. Anyone wish to bring an issue to the Commission? Seeing none, we will move on to our first public hearing, the East Vista Way self-storage. Ms. Chow, would you present the staff report?
Certainly. Good evening, Chairman Russler, Planning Commissioners. I'm Patsy Chow. I'm the City Planner, Deputy Director of Community Development. I'm here this evening to present this public hearing item concerning a request for a general plan amendment, a zone change, a site development plan, and a special use permit for East Vista Way self-storage, which is being proposed by August Ventures Vista LLC. So the proposed project is to be located on a 4.5-acre parcel addressed as 1100 East Vista Way. It would be developing a self-storage facility at this location with all the associated site improvements. And there will be a total of 4 storage buildings that would be comprising a total of approximately 128,000 square feet of storage space, which would then create approximately 1,000 storage units at this location. In addition to the self-storage buildings, there would be a business office / residence for an on-site manager that would be living at the project at this particular location. They propose hours of operation from 9:30 a.m. to 6 p.m., and the access to the storage units would be from 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. However, there would be the possibility of extended hours for any customers that wish to have some sort of a special access need. For instance, if they wanted to get into their storage unit prior to 6 a.m., they would have to have a special security code access in order to do that. The project would also provide 24-hour surveillance with cameras. There would be drainage improvements, wet and dry utilities, all the associated infrastructure for the project. As far as required approvals, we are talking about a general plan amendment in order to change the land use designation on the site from neighborhood commercial to general commercial. And that would be to be consistent and vice versa with the change in the zone in order to allow for self-storage facility via special use permit. So the site development plan comes into play also in order to make sure that the project and the development is compliant with all the city development requirements, design guidelines, and all the standards that we have in our development code. And the special use permit is basically to be able to process the self-storage facility as it would be allowed in the C2 zone. Here's the aerial photo showing the subject site outlined in red. Is just west of East Vista Way. And the site is currently zoned to C1, and that is the zone change to be proposed is to be to C2 to allow for the self-storage facility. So in order to be consistent with our general plan, the general plan designation would also be changing from CN to GC, general commercial, to be consistent with the C2 zone. The site is surrounded by commercial uses to the north and south, immediately to the north and south of it. Further to the northeast, there's some additional commercial uses along East Vista Way, and residential uses along the remainder of the portions across East Vista Way. Immediately, you've seen the another project there for townhomes, the enclave that got recently approved. So that's across the street on East Vista Way. At the back of the site, across Calle Julius, there are some additional residential apartment projects there, just west of the site. Just a view of the project site, currently existing from East Vista Way, looking down on what used to be Security Chevrolet, which was vacated around approximately 2012, had been there since the early 70s. So long time there, but obviously vacant or underutilized for several years since 2012. The site plan, as it's shown here, identifies the 4 buildings. At the top of the larger structure, the large building is Building 1A and Building 1B. There's also Building 1C that they're all connected on the second floor. And then you have Buildings 2, 3 in the center of the site and Building 4 at the southern end of the project site. The office and residence for the on-site manager are located just south of Building 1A, and that's facing the access road that actually provides access north and south, not only to the storage project, but also continue to provide access to the commercial uses just to the north, including Northgate Market, and then to the south, you have the Dollar Tree store and other retail stores just to the south of this project. At the western end of the project site, there are 2 drainage management areas or retention basins that are located next to an access road and then next to Delpy Ditch, which is actually the discharge point for this project as far as storm drain is concerned. And further to the east, as you know, it's abutting East Vista Way. So the project site's about probably 15 to 20 feet below East Vista Way right now. The landscape plan shows a total of 23% of the site that's landscaped, which exceeds the minimum requirement of 15% per landscape manual. There will be usage of native and non-native plant materials, and the site is landscaped or heavily landscaped towards the front of the site near the access road that gives egress and ingress into the project site, as well as the proposed retaining wall that would be allowing for the future widening or future expansion of East Vista Way, but there's also landscaping in front of it. It's a plantable wall. And then you also have landscaping at the southern perimeter, the southern boundary, I should say, of the project site as well. In terms of the general plan proposed designation, as mentioned before, they're asking for a change or an amendment to general commercial and a rezone to C2. In the C2 zone, the building height maximum allowed is 35 feet or 2-story, whichever is lowest. The tallest building on the project is approximately 31 feet in height, so it meets the requirement. The setbacks are 20 feet from a major road, and they're exceeding that at 40 to 50 feet, so well exceeding that requirement. And as I mentioned already, the landscaping is exceeding the minimum 15%. The total parking required for the project is 30 spaces. They are providing 31. And in terms of traffic, there's really no direct or any kind of cumulative traffic impact resulting from the project or directly associated with this development. In terms of the architectural elevations, there are several buildings on the site, but I just wanted to call attention to for purposes of making efficient use of our time here, all the elevations are included in the packet, all the colored elevations for all of the buildings. But what I decided to include on these slides are actually the exterior elevations facing East Vista Way, the southern, northern, and the western perimeter. So starting at the top, the building 1A east elevation is what is basically along the access road and then below East Vista Way. Keeping in mind that there is a difference in the elevation topography, so the site is about 15 feet or more than actually lower than East Vista Way. And the bottom one is actually building 4, which is the southern perimeter of the site, the wrought iron fencing that's going to be proposed at that end, along with the proposed elevation, which is comprised of some faux roll-up doors and then some roll-up doors at that elevation. So there's a diverse kind of a use of textures and materials with the tower elements, split face walls, metal canopies, metal sidings in a vertical and horizontal shape. And they're really just trying to altogether break up a mess of the buildings and enhancing visual character as well. On this next slide, at the top is building 1C, which is at the western end of the property. So what you would be looking at over there. And then on the other, at the bottom is buildings 1A and B, which is the north end, looking at the storage roll-up doors there. In terms of the environmental review, a mitigated neg deck was prepared and is included in your packet as Exhibit A to Exhibit 1. With the attachments as far as mitigation requirements as part of the MND. We've received only one letter from DTSC, which is Department of Toxic Substances Control. Oops, I hope it doesn't restart, because then I'll have to start all over again. All right, here we go. Saved by the Bell, or Button by John Conley. Thank you, John. So the one comment letter was received by DTSC, Department of Toxic Substances Control. All of their comments were responded to, and that was the only letter we got. And in terms of public policy, general plan development code, guidelines, based on staff's review and going through all the disciplines and review of the project is found to be consistent with the development code, all the design guidelines as far as the designation for the site that's being proposed as general commercial. And the land use designation of general commercial does allow for a broader range of commercial uses beyond what would be allowed in a C1 zone. Not much different, but there are additional uses that are allowed in there, which obviously includes the self-storage facility through the use of a special use permit. And last bullet point, the self-storage facility would be consistent with the fact that there is the ability of wanting to improve the site, which is an underutilized site right now, located on a major thoroughfare in accordance with our policies in the general plan. So that's what this project is trying to do, is improve that corridor in that particular site. So staff's recommendation is for the Planning Commission to recommend City Council approval of the mitigated neg deck, as well as the general plan amendment, the special use permit, the site development plan, and last but not least, the zone change that would allow for the change from C1 to C2. And this concludes my presentation, and I'm available for any questions. Thank you.
Very good. Any questions of staff, commissioners? Commissioner Garrison?
Yes, Ms. Chow. This is changing from C1 to C2?
C2, correct.
What else is allowed in C2 besides storage unit that is not allowed in C1?
Basically, it's our code works in a pyramid sort of a fashion where whatever it's allowed in the C1 is going to be allowed in the C2. All the permitted uses by right, including the special use permits. So the C2 zone, there are some additional uses that currently are not addressed in the C1, for instance, like a bakery or a cabinet shop or a carpenter shop, or it could be, for instance, like a laundromat by itself, a kennel or dog clinic. So those are types of permitted by right that would be an additional list beyond what's allowed in the C1.
Okay, thank you. I just want to get some idea of what else could be
Sure.
developed there. Also, this land is, 15 feet below Vista Way?
Approximately,
but
yes.
The buildings are 30-some feet.
31.
31 feet. So what you'll see from Vista Way are buildings that are 15 feet above Vista Way, correct?
Yeah, so you'll be looking at probably the top 10 feet or so of the buildings, not the entire, unless you're really standing there at the edge and looking down. But somebody driving would probably not be able to see the whole thing unless,
This will be covered all around or with a wrought iron fence for security purposes?
it is completely gated, that is true, for security purposes. The eastern end and the southern end is wrought iron fencing. The western end and the northern end, however, it's coated chain link fencing, black vinyl. So because there's not really a huge visibility as far as visual impacts, that's what was decided with the staff and the developer to allow for black vinyl coated chain link fence at those locations. But the visibility areas, the southern and the eastern end, which are highly visible, they're treated with wrought iron.
But nothing would be done with the creek that is, or the waterway that's back there, Delphi Creek.
Delphi Ditch is not being touched. All the exotic species, all the riparian woodland, there are to remain unless the city, which they have done in the past a long time ago, going there and actually clearing some vegetation with approval from the resource agencies. But this project does not create the need for that, so we're not impacting that area at all.
And the roadway or the driveway between or in front of that will continue to allow access to both shopping centers from one to the other.
Yes, there will still be the same connection as it exists today.
All right, thank you.
Commissioner Kramer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Staying with the zone change, is a storage facility allowed in a C1 zone?
No, and hence the need for the change to C2 so that the self-storage can be addressed through a special use permit as it is being requested right now. So the code does say special use permit in the C2 for self-storage,
But not
not in the C1.
not in the C1, not even with a special use permit?
No,
Okay. Hours, 9:30 to 6, 7 days a week?
that's my understanding.
Okay. Is the applicant going to make a presentation?
They don't have a formal presentation, but they are here to answer any questions you may have.
Okay. What I'm not particularly happy with is the flat roofs. I don't think it does anything for the area that if the roofs had even a simple roof line like the Dollar Tree Plaza does with little freeps at the ends, something to dress it up because it is very plain. Those are all my comments right now. Thank you, Ms. Chow.
Commissioner Looney.
Yeah, Patsy, what kind of discussion took place at city council level, 2.5 years ago?
They basically considered the general plan amendment. When the project was submitted, a month later, it went as an item before the city council for discussion whether they would be in favor of considering a general plan amendment for changing the CN to the GC to allow for the self-storage project. And as far as basically that was the crux or the intent of that is just to gain better understanding whether there will be support for that or not.
So from what I could read from the report, they are basically in favor of the zone change and the use
Correct.
of that piece of property.
Correct.
Thank you.
Patsy, right now, one of the main driveway entrances to this area is at the intersection at Oak, off of East Vista Way, across from Oak Drive. That's where the traffic signal is. Right now, the restaurant is vacant, but when the restaurant is in use and Goodwill is having a good day, traffic can back out onto East Vista Way. Are they going to improve the exclusive right turn lane for the entrance into the shopping center for the southbound traffic, and anything going to be happening with northbound turning pockets?
That I have not heard as far as being part of this particular project or these types of improvements that you are referring to. The East Vista Way, in particular segments between Beaubier and Oak and Vale Terrace are actually operating at level of services C and D. And the ADTs are well below what is actually estimated for the area, which is about 40,000 ADT. So I have not heard
Okay.
particulars about doing that kind of improvement there.
It has more to do with the parking lot design inside the shopping center. It just doesn't allow any stacking at all, or it doesn't have a deep enough throat for cars to enter there. So it may be a problem in the future when the restaurant gets occupied again. So, okay. I have two speaker slips from people identifying themselves as the applicant, Mr. Driscoll and Mr. Allworth.
Good evening. I'm Paul Driscoll, one of the owners of AV Vista. As Patsy said, we don't have any prepared presentation tonight, but I did want to be here to answer any questions and to let you know how excited we are about developing this project. Our company has developed over 50 self-storage projects since the late 1970s, and we're partnered with one of the best self-storage companies in the country, in Extra Space, who's continually being nominated as the best managed and the best operated self-storage company in the country. We're thrilled about the design and look at this project. The questions that I've heard are easy for us to adapt to. So just wanted to thank you for this opportunity and let you know how excited we are about developing the site.
Let me start off with one general question. You've heard several of the commissioners already talk about the general plan amendment and the zone change to C2. I think the commissioners would like some assurance of where you are in the process of moving forward. If you go away and we amend the plan and change the zone, then we've got a hunk of property, zone C2 and commercial general on the plan, sitting in the middle of a commercial strip. So I think the commissioners would like to have some assurance that you're going to move forward and are not going to leave the city. So
well, we've been working on this project for 3 years, so we are here to stay.
all right.
We've got, as I mentioned, our partner Extra Space is really excited about managing and operating and owning this project. We've got all of our plans for building permits and the grading permit ready to be submitted. So those plans are, we have our civil engineer here to answer any of those questions. So yeah, we're ready to submit our plans as soon as we get the zone change approval.
Okay. Commissioners, any questions for the applicant? Lots of questions, so hang on. Commissioner Looney?
Just one, and that's because I'm uninformed about how this often works. Because of the limited access that you have directly from the street, you will be crossing someone else's property. What type of agreement exists between you and the other property owners as far as maintenance of the paving? Because they will be there will be additional traffic on their property to access yours. So could you fill me in on how that is arranged?
Well, I know we are responsible for that access road in front of us, and as I understand it, each property owner is responsible for their the access road that's in front of their property. So, I think that's how I understand
You have
it.
easement rights over?
So we have an easement right from Bobbier.
Okay.
And then the other, from the southern section, it's just basically a prescriptive agreement, easement. So there's no formal agreement from the south. The southern property doesn't have the easement to the north, so it's kind of it's a difficult situation for them. But that's not. We don't own that access road to the north of us. It's just the city that we have the easement with.
Okay. So if pavement repairs are needed and your customers complain that the pavement is in poor shape, but yet the other property owner doesn't have the funds prepare that, can you, maybe it's more directed to staff, what kind of scenario plays out in that where one owner doesn't have the funds and the other owner needs to have the street or driveway improved?
If there is no property owners association that's tying them all together and making them responsible or contributing, I should say, it is really falls on the responsibility of that property owner. And if they don't have funds available, then, who's going to pay for it? The city won't. It's not a city's obligation. And unless there's some agreement between the two private property owners for upkeep and maintenance, then I'm not aware of it. But that would be the only way to do it.
Okay, thank you, Patsy.
Commissioner Jackal.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have a couple of questions, if that's all right. First of all, I absolutely agree with Commissioner Kramer about the flat roofs, so I hope something can be done to mitigate that. Because, and this leads me to kind of my next question, especially in the development in the residences that already exist across East Vista Way, they're going to be looking down on this. And we need to take into consideration, I think, what they will be seeing. So, 'cause right directly across from you right now, there's not anything, but a project has been approved there, and there will be people living there. So then, I'm very pleased with your landscaping along East Vista Way and the north edge of the property. But I drove around the back on the street, I think it's called Calle Jules or Calle Jules. Okay. And there is on the other side of that street, there are just a whole row of apartments. And again, what will those people be seeing? And I am quite concerned about just this long row of garage doors that they're going to be looking at, or unit doors or storage unit doors or whatever. And I'm wondering what we can possibly do to mitigate that view. Is it possible to put more landscaping along the Delpy ditch or in the drainage areas?
Yeah, and we've looked at that, but there's the way it slopes down, and we're actually, I don't think they'll be seeing doors because we're actually below them too, because it slopes down there. So there's an issue with trying to put any landscaping on anywhere. We can't do it in the ditch, obviously, but
right.
On the sides of the ditch because it slopes down into it.
Mm-hmm.
But we are below that area too. And I know there's landscaping on that road, and then the apartments that would be looking out are almost on the second floor of that apartment complex. So right now they're looking at a very ugly
yes, very.
site. And it's definitely going to be an improved view. I mean, to me, there's no question about it. It's going to be a really nice looking building.
Okay. Well, I wish you would put in the back of your mind, maybe go back and look at the apartments and look at what they're going to be looking at.
Okay.
Because I did drive along there and get out and look myself. Okay, and I am very glad that you're going to have the 24-hour resident manager. And again, this sounds like a dumb question, but it happened in another community where I live. What are you going to do to prevent people from living in these units?
So as I mentioned, Extra Space they're the second largest self-storage company in the country, and they're by far the best management company, and they do a great job of dealing with those issues and preventing those issues. The site will have it'll be fenced in with security. The only way you can get in is if you have if you're a paying customer and you have given a code to get in.
Well, so that's my point. What if the person who's paying the rent and has the code is living in the unit?
Yeah, so they have procedures for checking on that. So they do internal audits with all of their units where they periodically check them. They obviously don't check every single one, all the time, but they have internal audits where they check those things and monitor it through cameras. So they can, so one way of doing it too is, so you not only do you track people going in, you track people going out. So when someone punches in, if they don't punch out, then the manager will go and check and see what's going on.
Okay.
So they, and again, they're really good at, they've got over 1,500 facilities across the country that they manage, and this is not, that is an issue, throughout the self-storage industry, and they're very good at staying on top of those things.
Okay, well, thank you so much.
Commissioner Looney?
Sorry, I just got one more question. On the roof plan, we're calling out, or you're calling out, a standing seam metal roof, but is that a shallow pitched roof? Because typically those are used on a steeper roof pitch, but
I can't answer that question, but if you, we have one of our construction manager here who probably could answer that if you.
Sure. It just seems to be a lot of money on a flat roof when something else could.
And again, so a lot of the design was back and forth with the planning department. So it was a combination. The design was a combination of what the Vista Planning Department wanted and what we can do.
Okay.
What was the question about the roof line again?
So on the roof plan, there's no building sections.
Pardon?
So I couldn't find a building section in the set of drawings.
Oh, cut section on that.
And on the roof plan, there's large areas of a standing seam metal roof.
Right.
But from what I could tell from the exterior elevations, it's really a flat roof.
No, there's pitch to it. There's definitely pitch to it.
Okay.
It's not a flat roof.
So is it coming back to the flat roof look, but none of those pitched roofs are going to be visible from Vista Way, will they, or will they not?
Well, from the top of the road, looking at the project, it would look like a shallow pitched roof. I mean, it would,
So what's
it
the
would
pitch
be visible from.
What's the pitch of the roof?
Pardon?
What's the pitch of the roof of most of those buildings in?
I'd have to look back on the plans. It's minimal because it's, mostly architectural. So, I mean, you're trying to get this look, rather than just a big square building. Back in the old days, I mean, these buildings were a lot less complicated. They were really simple, basic, flat roofs, ugly, rolled roofing on them. Now they've completely changed this. The cost of this project compared to what you did back in 1970 or 1980 is a total different world as far as the amount of money.
But what I'm trying to learn from you is if you're going to the expense of a standing seam metal roof,
right?
Typically that's put on a pitched roof, something more than 2 and 12. And if that roof pitch is greater or is 2 and 12 or greater, is that pitched roof going to be visible from Vista Way that's going to prevent this from
Are you
looking
trying to
like a
say if it was
box?
flat, you wouldn't see it, and if it had a 2 and 12 pitch?
You will see it because it just goes backwards. So it may not. So when you look at the elevation from the front,
You would see
you're
a
not seeing
pitch.
the roof. You're not, on those elevation pictures, you're not seeing like what they would see from above, right?
Right.
So
Why
there is
wouldn't
some
you
pitch
just
to
use a
it.
vinyl roof rather than going to the expense of a standing seam metal roof?
I didn't hear the first part of the question.
He's saying why
wouldn't
didn't,
the developer propose a vinyl roof rather than a standing seam roof?
So part of that also is extra spaces requirements. So we're building this for extra space, so they have requirements on what they'd like. So that's another part of the equation.
Oh. Okay. So we're really not seeing any pitched roof from Vista Way. really basic.
No, I'm saying, I think you are. Just from that elevation, though, you're looking at it from, as if you're standing on the access road. When you're looking above, you'll see that pitched roof going back.
But we don't know what the pitch of that roof is.
Yeah, I haven't got the plans
Yeah,
with
we
me
haven't the
right
plans in
now.
front of us.
Otherwise,
We don't have an architect here who has
Okay.
that information.
Okay. Thank you.
One, quickly, your name and address for the record.
Sure. My name is Sid. Last name is Stone. My address is 18325 Bernardo Trails, San Diego, 92128.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Sid.
Commissioner Carroll, I wouldn't go away too far away.
I was just going to chime in on the pitched roof, and Commissioner Looney, it seems that some of that element may be visible from traffic as it's coming towards the project from northbound or southbound, as it's getting a different angle, as opposed to being when it's straight in front, looking straight on the elevations. I think a side had to be chosen for that, and it's just not showing up here in these front elevations. But that's maybe not. Again, we don't know the pitch, but I think there's opportunities for seeing those elements as you approach the project from either side.
Yeah, because we don't have really a building section, we can't see it because it's not shown in a roof plan, it's not shown in the exterior elevation, which if we would have had a simple building section, that would have helped, I think, clarify as to what's going to be visible from Vista Way and what is not.
Okay. I had a couple of questions for you. The rest of the commissioners are thinking about your project right now. Thank you, Ms. Chow, for putting these elevations up. The bottom elevation that we're looking at up here is the south view. Okay. Ms. Chow, could you go to the north view, please? The bottom one is the north view, basically from the parking lot of Northgate. Because of the alignment of East Vista Way, it curves. I think people driving on East Vista Way are going to see this elevation, and I'm concerned about it. I liked your treatment of the south elevation with the two canopies and tower elements that are there. And I would like to see you do something like that on this elevation, at least on Building 1A. Building 1B is further back and may even be screened by the supermarket next door. So that's my concern. I also like your landscaping on the south elevation. You've got a strip of landscaping with shrubs and trees in it. No landscaping on the north side. So those are my two issues, okay?
So in addressing that question, so this is also down. There's a big, especially as you get further back, it's 6-8 feet change in elevation. So you won't see this from this East Vista Way driving because, again, it's down below that supermarket as you go back. It's 15 feet, especially when you're coming from the north on East Vista Way. That's where the highest part of the hill is. Mm-hmm. So you're not going to see this side of the road from there because it's so high, and then it goes down.
Well, that's why I was willing to take a pass on Building 1B, but I think Building 1A is going to be visible from East Vista Way, and I think it needs some additional enhancement.
Okay. We did look at this, and again, so we're already back from the access road here. I think even it's again like 40 feet, and because of the change in elevation, and how East Vista Way goes, we can definitely absolutely look at that and look at putting some more treatment on that side. But in thinking back on this again, we're so far back and down that maybe the first 3 units you'll see on A, but again then it just goes right back and down. But I'll look at that as well.
Okay. And then I agree with Commissioner Jackal on the view from Cali Jewels. You have 2 detention basins back there before you get to the Delphi ditch. And so again, the treatment that you did on the south side along that backside would certainly go a long way to enhancing that view from the apartments on Cali Jewels. So I looked at the landscaping plan, and it appeared that there were just ground covers that were in the detention basin, and I know that there are restrictions of what you can and can't do in there. So, but I think additional landscaping along that west side of the project is definitely needed. So, we have more questions. Hang on, Commissioner Kramer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. On the office residence south, so it looks like it's the front, it's on our views, it shows extra space, the signage, and great colors. Possible to add a little bit of landscaping to the front of that because it's pretty plain.
Yeah. If there's room for landscaping, absolutely.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Jackal.
Back to building 1B. Mr. Conley has shown me another possibility for landscaping along the back of that building facing the apartments. Ms. Chow, can you bring up the sheet L3?
That's the only one I have on the PowerPoint. I'm sorry about that. But you have the L3 in your packets, both in the large sheet and the small version. But this is basically the L3.
Oh, yes, this will work.
This
will
shows the landscaping that's being proposed.
On the left-hand side of the screen is Cali Jewels, and then the apartments are beyond that. And then this shows the detention basins.
Mm-hmm.
And what Mr. Conley pointed out is right on the edge of the detention basin, there are a series of parking spaces. So if I'm just asking if the commission is willing to forego the parking spaces in order to put landscaping in.
And just for informational purposes, there are a total of 10 spaces back there that's helping meet the 30 parking spaces requirement, just FYI.
Yeah. Or do you want to pursue the drainage thing?
I don't think we can plant. I don't think we can plant in the retention basin.
What's your client need for parking? I mean,
we do not need 30 spaces.
You don't need 30 spaces.
No, there are facilities this big where we have 10.
Okay. I'm willing to consider that. Giving up were you going to do RV parking back there?
No.
Okay. All right. I'm willing to consider taking the parking spaces out and putting a 10-foot strip of landscaping in there with trees and shrubs.
Great.
Okay. Where's the commission? I'm seeing heads nod. Commissioner Garrison.
So no RV parking, no boat parking?
No.
No camper?
No.
No.
Just the customers that are
the users of the storage unit.
And the managers that live there.
And the managers that live there. So we could make that part of the approval.
One additional question, kind of aside, why 2 bedrooms in the manager's unit?
If it's a family.
Okay. All right. Okay. All right. Any other questions for the applicant? Commissioner Bell, sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just to add on to what the chairman was getting at, I was able to pull up Google Maps with a street view from East Vista Way. I got to push back a little bit on the view. I think you can really see at least the first half of that building from the street up there coming south. And as someone who lives here, and we all do, we see it very often. So I really feel like we have to add either something to the building, some sort of landscaping, or something to enhance at least that 50% of the building view from the north heading south on there. I don't know what that is, and I don't want to put an extra burden on you to change your entire building around, but I feel like the front of the building looks really good. Looking from the east, it looks really good. And I think we can do something more with the other part of that. I'm open to ideas. I'm sure this isn't your first go-around on this, so if you have any general ideas and suggestions for us, I'm sure we're happy to listen.
Yeah, I mean, off the top of my head, I don't have. There's obviously some treatment we can do to the front part of that, or the east side of that building, to break it up. Whether it's architectural, there's not really a lot of room to put landscaping there, but we could do work with that, the treatment on that side of the building. Right. Yep. That's what we can do.
Commissioner Looney.
As was mentioned, you've done a good job on articulating the street side, on Vista Way side. Take some of those elements, take some of those vertical elements, and just wrap them around the corner. A little bit of push and pull of wall planes, and begin to break up some of that, the top elevation line, the parapet roofs, but just carry that same theme around that corner. And I think that's going to give you a much better building that's going to be viewed southbound on that street, on that corner.
Sure,
And
absolutely.
when you do that, if you could just throw in a couple of sections, just so the roof slopes read to where we're able to understand that too. I think that would be, that's going to help your drawings be better understood. And I think it'll help all the way around.
Very good. Any other questions for the applicant? Thank you, Mr. Driscoll. We appreciate it. We'll now close the public hearing and open it up to commissioner discussion and action. Anyone like to take the lead? Commissioner Bell?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As to the elevations or the view from the north side and the south side, I would just propose we add a requirement that, well, you tell me what you guys think, but I don't feel the need to hold this up because of those changes. I feel like they've done a good job looking from the east and the street. I think you can reflect even a part of that on the north and the south view and fix this to be acceptable. So I'm willing to add a requirement that they adjust the drawings, and so adjust the, I guess we call them setbacks and views from the north and south side to have a little diversity. Provide details on the roof line, that I trust the city can deal with that issue and make sure that's acceptable, and then add the landscaping in place of the parking and whatever we need to do to agree to drop the parking requirement for this specific projects, and I'm sure Ms. Chow can speak to that.
It's a use permit, so we have that authority, don't we?
Okay.
Correct. And it's both a SUP and a site development plan, so the Planning Commission has the ability to change our parking standards through those two tools. So we just have to correctly identify all of that as we move forward to the City Council.
So I would leave it to someone else to articulate a little clearer than I have, but I would suggest that we drop the parking requirement to match Commissioner Jackal's suggestion that we put landscaping in the west side of the property.
Patsy, let me ask you, you've heard the commissioner's discussion on building 1B, and I'm sorry, 1A.
1A.
Are you comfortable knowing where the commission's coming from, or do you want more specifics from us?
No, I think I'm comfortable hearing what you have discussed with the applicant. And just to reiterate, we're looking at building 1A and also building 4 at the southern end. Yes. So at the two corners, north and south, I guess, closest to the access road, East Vista Way visibility, etc., trying to wrap the tower elements and some of the architectural features around to the other side of those portions that are not currently embellished, perhaps to the same extent as the eastern faced elevation.
The southern elevation, yes.
Yeah, so
okay.
Doing that.
Commissioners, are we okay giving staff the authority to negotiate that out? And they've got our direction. Okay? All right. So where we're at right now, as far as I understand it, we've directed staff to continue to work with the applicant to adjust the northern elevation of Building 1A to include tower elements and duplicate the efforts of the southern elevation of Building 4, I believe it is. And then we're going to delete the 10 parking spaces along the back and put in a 10-foot strip of landscaping that would include trees and shrubs that would enhance the view from Cali Jewels. Okay? I know I'm not supposed to do it, but I'll make that a motion to approve the general plan amendment, or I'm sorry, approve the negative declaration, the general plan amendment, the special use permit, the site design, and recommend approval of the zone change from C1 to C2 to the City Council. Commissioner Kramer?
Good job. I second that motion.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve the project. Commissioner Carroll, did you have one last comment?
Question for Ms. Chow. Was this city aware of the property not having an easement to the south?
Not aware of that, or not having. You're asking whether there is an easement or not, one to the south of it?
Well, my understanding
this
is there's not.
particular-
I was just curious if the city knew that there's not an easement to the south.
I'm
access.
not particularly aware of it, no. I'm sure our engineering department has researched into the subject matter.
Okay, well, since, I mean, traffic's not a big issue for this project, but it's conceivable that that south access could be fenced off.
The particular project, the subject project, has, I believe, agreements with the southern property for being able for them to be able to use this access road for purposes of getting to their
okay.
customers.
All
So
right.
I
Yeah,
don't think that
I didn't pick up that information from the applicant that there's some sort of agreement in place.
that's my understanding from talking to the property owner to the south. He's been in conversations with staff and in the environmental planner and making sure that there's nothing that's going to preclude or close that road. So I believe that there is something in place.
Okay, great.
That's what I have heard.
Thank you.
All right, let's cast our vote. And the project is approved unanimously by the council. Thank you very much, Mr. Driscoll and Mr. Allworth. Good luck on your project. All right. The next item on our agenda is an early design review, and it is mentioned in the introduction to item 2. The early design review is not a public hearing, but we will take public testimony. Our procedure is for staff to make a presentation and then the applicant to come and add some additional information to that. After that, we will have public speakers, and then after that, the commission will provide guidance to the applicant for the project. So, Mr. Ressler, are we ready to go?
Thank you, Chairman, members of the Planning Commission. The project before you tonight is an early design review for the Cypress Edge project. The application number is P17-0462. Just an overview of the early design review process. The EDR process provides an opportunity for the Planning Commission to review initial proposals and to provide preliminary comments to the applicant. This proposal has not been reviewed by city staff and it has not been routed to the other departments. The applicant will answer questions in regards to project design and the thought process behind the project. And there is no vote tonight. There's never a vote associated with an early design review. Staff has received a preliminary proposal to develop 35 townhomes on approximately 3.3 acres. The site is located northeast of the intersection of Cypress Drive and South Santa Fe Avenue. The subject site is currently vacant land. Here's an aerial photograph of the site as well as a photograph of the site. The site is identified with red outline on the left image. As I indicated before, the site is 3.3 acres. It's one legal lot, and it's currently vacant land. Surrounding land uses include single-family residences to the north, vacant land, as well as a gas station to the south across South Santa Fe. To the east, we have single-family residences, as well as a retail center, as well as a retail center to the west. The general plan land use designation for the site is medium high-density residential. That land use designation would allow for up to 15 dwelling units per acre. The zoning of the site is multifamily residential, RM15. The RM15 zone would allow for up to 2 stories and a maximum density of 15 dwelling units per acre. The proposed project would require a site development plan, condominium housing permit, tentative subdivision map, CEQA review, as well as landscape review. The proposal includes 35 townhome units within 9 separate buildings. The proposed density is 10.6 dwelling units per acre. The units would be 2-story walk-up units with individual 2-car garages for each unit. The buildings would have a maximum height of 28 feet. The townhome makeup in terms of bedroom count, there would be 16 2-bedroom units as well as 19 3-bedroom units. As I indicated before, the 3.3-acre site would be developed with 9 buildings with a mix of 3 to 7 townhomes per building. In regards to parking, the multifamily residential parking standards would require a total of 97 parking spaces. The submitted site plan before you tonight indicates 98 parking spaces would be provided, so that exceeds code requirement by 1 parking space. In regards to site amenities, the submitted site plan and landscape plan indicate that the site would provide fitness equipment within a centralized open space area, as well as a barbecue area and a dog park. Architecturally, the proposed development has been designed around a modern symmetrical architectural style. The buildings have been designed with white stucco exterior finishes with articulating walls, a dark gray vertical contrast accent elements, metal guardrails, dark bronze vinyl windows, as well as charcoal gray block walls around the patios. In regards to the units themselves, the townhomes would be 2 and 3 bedrooms, ranging in size from 1,470 square feet to 1,892 square feet. Staff is recommending the Planning Commission provide comments to the applicant in regards to the design of the project. The development team is here, and the applicant would be coming up to the podium and introducing himself and answering questions the Planning Commission might have tonight. Staff is also available to answer any questions you have. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you. Any questions for staff? I don't have a speaker slip from the applicant, so if you'd approach and... No problem. Name and address for the record, please.
Thank you, Commissioners. Brett Shaves representing the applicant, 2152 DuPont Drive, Irvine, California, 92612. Thank you for the opportunity for us to present our townhome project that we proposed, and thank you, Michael, for going over it briefly. When we came into the site and looked at it, we are primarily urban infill developers seeking urban infill sites. And so North County is of special interest to us. In the past, I've been able to do a couple of projects in the area. One is the Level 15 project at the I-15 and 78 northwest corner, 70-unit townhome project in years past. That was my entitlement project, as well as a site in Carlsbad, Black Rail Ridge, adjacent to Aviara. So love North County and want to continue to work here. First project for us in Vista, so we're excited about it. This site in particular has some topography to it, as I'm sure you're aware, and it poses any developer some risks as well as challenges to overcome that. The site is along South Santa Fe Boulevard, Avenue, which allows for us to capitalize on a lot of the retail aspects, a lot of the urbanization that's taking place along Santa Fe. So when we looked at the site in particular and questioned whether it should be high-density residential, lower-density residential, we ended up somewhere in between. And we could have gone to 50, I believe it's 52 units. We ended up at 35. We believe that there's a good market right now for affordable housing, but not earmarked as affordable. And so we're trying to keep our price points in the 400s and make them affordable or allow them to be affordable for young families, singles, as well as young couples, our target market. We're excited about this project just because of the vicinity and some of the upcoming, just a lot of synergy going on in the area, as you're well aware of. I'm sure there's other projects in the area. So creating that critical mass, if you will, for this area and this stretch is exciting to us. I'm happy to answer any questions you have regarding the project. And as well here with me is our architect, David Hawkins. Ryan Waffles here. He's our civil engineer, and he can answer any questions as well, too. Thank you.
Okay, very good. Any questions for the applicant? Commissioner Garrison?
I have a question about the entree and egress from this property.
Sure.
It's my understanding that it's both on Santa Fe.
Correct.
And that Cypress is just an emergency exit, correct?
That's right. It's for emergency vehicles, fire and emergency vehicles only.
So
as you're well aware, the neighborhood above petitioned some time ago to eliminate access up Cypress. And so our only access is down on Santa Fe. Our residents, some would say, well, gosh, that's limiting for you guys, having that availability to you. It's what we're dealing with. And I appreciate the fact that residents up there had traffic issues to and fro, and they petitioned the city, and they were able to get that ingress removed. And so we're working with the city to provide sole vehicular access for the residents, just along Santa Fe only, in and out. And then the Cypress in and out access would only be for emergency vehicles.
So is there parking on Santa Fe right there in front of it?
That's not counted. If there is, it's not counted in our tally, no.
And nor would it be permitted.
Right.
So there's no parking. So what about the entrance? Is it going to be wide enough to where a car coming would be west, turning into this property, would be able to get off the road enough not to block Santa Fe before they entered the property?
It's actually a pretty deep throat going into the site. The driveway width is 30 feet wide, and the depth of the driveway has got to be 75, 80 foot in depth. So it's a pretty substantial driveway coming into the site. Again, staff hasn't analyzed the project or anything like that, so the traffic engineer has not reviewed this. We had a pre-application meeting to provide him some general comments, but other than that, we haven't analyzed it.
Well, I would be concerned because there's a much bigger property going in across the street. And the Planning Commission had recommended a median be put there with a left turn from, let's say, headed west. You could turn left into that property. And also coming out of that property, you could turn left and go west. So how does this fit in with that? Because you got the property across the street where you're turning left into the property and left out of the property.
So Commissioner, if I can answer that question for you.
Into this property going left and right, so.
This would probably end up being a ride-out only for us.
So geared towards that question, Commissioner Garrettson, you know what? I did do a small little image that I imposed the two projects because I had a feeling there'd be a question tonight in terms of where the access was on the Sahara Townhome project that was recently approved by the Planning Commission and the proposed development before you tonight. You can see in red the driveway of the proposed project, and you can see the driveway on the Sahara Townhome. They're offset. The Sahara Townhome project lines up with Cypress Drive. You're correct. That driveway does allow for right in, right out, left in, left out. The median has been designed to provide approximately 4 queuing spaces going into that development. So as you can see, they're offset. Based on the site plan that was provided, it looks as though the driveway's approximately about 150 foot off of Cypress Drive. So it's down a bit. So the movements between the two developments, there shouldn't be any conflict or any issues associated with the drive-throughs with these two developments.
You don't expect any stacking along here?
However,
turning left into that property?
Yeah, however, though, as the applicant indicated, this project's going to be a right-in, right-out. So the only access from the site will be from the slow lane. The stacking for the adjacent property would be from the fast lane, the second lane. So they should be accessing from different lanes going into each development. So I hope I've clarified that a bit, but
that's very good because I wasn't able to picture where this was going to go relative to each property, because if they were directly across from each other, that could be a major problem. The second question I have relates to amenities. Seems like you've put amenities in there only for adults. What about the little kids? No playgrounds?
Oh, we have a dog park. We also can do a tot lot if instead of a fitness. We've done so many tot lots in projects that the feedback has been, hey, can you do something different other than a tot lot? And so being that this project would be geared more towards young couples, young married folks, there will be some young families. We can certainly add that amenity into it. We're not opposed to that at all.
That would be a major concern because of Santa Fe and how far the parent would have to take somebody walking. And eventually you're going to have a bike trail across the road, which will be a big plus for the teenagers. But for the younger kids, I would strongly see that as a concern.
Some of the feedback we've gotten recently on projects is the fitness course and what that means to folks. And so incorporating that with a tot lot would be fine.
Commissioner Bell?
Thank you, Chairman. Before I move to my question, just to confirm, there's entrance and exit with the existing stoplight intersection from this development, correct? Next to the the small retail center, commercial center right there?
I'm sorry, I didn't understand the question.
Entering and exiting this development, people use the actual four-way stoplight. No?
No, this is offset from Mar Vista and South Santa Fe.
So there's only one entrance and one exit, and that's it?
That's correct. Right. And it's unsignalized. There's no stop sign or anything like that. It's mid-block.
Okay. My question is about the architecture. Obviously, this is modern architecture. Personally, I love it because I love modern architecture. My wife doesn't, so we don't live in a modern architecture house. But the question for you is, what considerations do you take into designing like this? I imagine cost is one, based on flat walls, less setbacks, roof angles. I imagine you're going to get some feedback that this doesn't fit the feel of the neighborhood, nor does it fit the development that's going in across the street. You've dealt with this over and over again, I'm sure. If you have any feedback on that and how you guys choose your architecture, I'd love to hear it.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Good question. When we met with Patsy on the pre-app meeting, she actually was really encouraged for us to bring in a modern architecture, like you're saying. We've vacillated back and forth because you could easily do a Spanish architecture, a traditional, whatever it is, and fit in to residential around. But there's more modern buildings coming online, especially on the boulevard. And so to be able to fit in and differentiate yourself along Santa Fe Avenue with retail, with commercial, and now with residential, we wanted to set the project apart a little bit and introduce a little bit of San Diego flair, if you will. And she was happy to the fact that we were actually trying to do that. She said, hey, run with this architecture. We could easily go back and do a more traditional type of architecture, but being that it's right on the avenue and we don't have access to neighborhoods, we're going to be street front on Santa Fe. We chose to run with this modern, sleek look.
And I like it. I think
younger folks like it too.
Yeah, and I think you're going to get some pushback. I would just be willing to consider some small changes that might find a balance between the two. I know I wouldn't make that choice either, but I think that within the community, I think you might get a little pushback on that, just based on what we've seen come into the area in the past. Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Jackal.
Thank you. Well, fortunately, most of my questions have already been asked, but talking about the architecture, I too enjoy modern architecture, but I feel that the side elevations and the rear elevations that you've shown are much too blank. And not to denigrate your architecture, but I wish there were some kind of architectural embellishment that you could put there. Just my thought. And am I understanding that the roofs are going to be flat?
Yes.
Okay. So I appreciate your providing these site sections so that we can see who will see what from where. But will the people living above this, looking down, will they see air conditioning, condensers, and that sort of thing?
We haven't identified where the condenser units are going to be yet, but we don't plan on putting them on rooftops. Now, I don't want to say that because my mechanical engineer isn't here right now, but typically we're going to try to find a space alongside the building at the base for those units. So.
All right, thank you. I think that right now is fine. Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Kramer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Well, I'd be the one who's not in favor of the modern architecture, looking at the rest of the neighborhood. However, I could go along with it if the roof lines were different, because the flat lines are too flat. Love what you've done. Really appreciate the reduced occupancy. Love that, and the topography for me with rocks and oh my gosh, and the landscaping that you've chosen is going to be fabulous. Just the roof lines, if you want to stay modern. This is my only comment at this time. Thank you.
Commissioner Garrison. No? Okay. Commissioner Carroll.
Thank you, Chairman. There's a bit of an oddball driveway here next to the neighbor to the northeast with the retail center there, and it seems precariously close to this unit, like about 10 feet away of this commercial center's driveway. Did you have some sort of plan for segregating those somehow, fencing or?
Yeah, so the plan would be to probably create more of a landscape barrier there as opposed to hardline walls or anything of that nature. So if we could kind of stimulate the visual elements on the side there, that I understand what building or what unit you're talking about, and we're struggling with that too. The challenge is we're trying to build in the most buildable areas, and so you've got so much topography to the site. We're trying to keep the homes loaded down on Santa Fe to reduce the impact into the slope, as well as create a viable community. And so we can work with staff, in the upcoming weeks and months to formalize that and to create a nice buffer there, if you will.
Yeah, barrier/buffer, I think would be helpful.
Each of these units has their own patio yards, rear patio yards, which are, for townhomes are you don't get that a lot. And so we're trying to create some private open space that allows for ground force backyard space. So we can probably try on that side of that building to create a buffer there in between the last unit and where that driveway is.
Okay.
Continuing on, discussing that driveway, it looks like it's more than 30 feet wide. Do they have easement rights over this corner of your property, and can you narrow that driveways to 24?
Yeah, so we're going to be going through that process right now. There was an easement granted years past to accommodate their driveway, but not all of that easement area has been used. And so the hope is that we can use a portion of that for our landscape area. We don't need it for buildable pad area, but we need it for some buffer area. So.
Okay, very good. All right. No other commissioners have questions, so I'm going to turn to my stack of public comments. So hang close, and we'll see what happens here.
Thanks.
The first one is George Apashian. Did I get that right this time? Okay.
My name is George Apashian. I live at 1324 Cypress Drive, and I've been at that address since 1983. My main concern today was to get ready for a fight regarding access to Cypress Drive, which you've now told me it's not an issue. So that's a good thing for us. My concern is in that we have a lot of families now moving into the area because of it's just a nice quiet street now that we've stopped access from both ways on Cypress Drive. Lots of children now playing in the streets where there wasn't before. Elderly people walking their dogs down to the Sunrise Cafe, and it's a nice, quaint neighborhood. And the changes that we paid for as 40 residents on that street, and the 3 years of communication with the planning department and the city council over in the last few years has been delightful. I know you're all smart people, and you see what we're trying to stay with. My only thoughts are, and of course, traffic. Nobody knows what's going to happen with the traffic when the other site opens up and they have the roundabout further up on Mar Vista come into play. So it's a big question mark still, no matter what the traffic studies show. So I hope we move slow and patiently and try to get all the answers that we need before we make decisions quicker than we should. The houses on Cypress Drive, which are in the left corner of that diagram, I don't really have an idea of how close those units are on the upper left-hand corner to the property lines of the 5 houses that run up that, and then what the visual impact is going to be because of the hillside and the fact that the Cypress Drive goes up. So I think that's probably something that would be good to know. But, thank you for your time, and good luck.
Mrs. Apashian, did you want to comment? Yes, I have a speaker slip for you.
Hi, my name is Wenda Saposhian, and I've lived at 1324 Cypress Drive for 34 years. I'm really glad that they're not going to open that up. I just want to make sure that fire lane at one point is not going to be deemed viable to come open up, because that driveway is going to be a problem just getting in, a right in and a right out. I can guarantee you, I pull out of Cypress numerous times every day, and I can only turn right. People barrel down Santa Fe, and it's kind of blind there, and if they can only go outright, which makes sense, I don't know, it could be really dangerous. I think it's kind of a missed opportunity not to go straight through the light into the development that way, and so people could exit that way. I don't know if there's the easement problems with that, but to me that makes a lot more sense being a long-term resident there. There's only 40 houses on Cypress Drive, and this would add another 35, so almost double the traffic if it was ever opened onto Cypress Drive. And there are houses that have small children in them that live right on Cypress now that we were able to save from any kind of unfortunate accident. So I really would like to make sure there's going to be no parking up on that hill, and that there's never going to be really any access when push comes to shove, that this driveway isn't going to work right. I kind of don't like seeing the way that they portray the elevations, because I know that the lot is like this, and some of those houses are going to be higher. And when you show blue skies and birds flying, that isn't what it's going to look like. You're going to be up against a hillside, and the houses up above there, and it looked like to me that there was like 5 or 7 of them rimming this property, are going to be looking down on that. I think the design is darling, cute, hipster, fun, and I don't think it belongs in this neighborhood. I get it, it's inexpensive, but the flat roof just isn't going to work. And just like the big property across the street, you guys worked with them to get articulated tile roofs because you felt for the people that are living over on Phillips. And I think the people on Cypress and the people that are on Phillips that are all going to look down on that, it's a cute design. It really is. I just don't think it's going to work for people that live in this wooded area. This is a really nice neighborhood, and you guys know that. And not that the other ones aren't nice, and not that this design isn't cute, but I just don't. I want to make sure that it fits with our neighborhood and it brings value to our homes up above, rather than, the people that live there are going to move out because they're not going to like what they're going to be looking at. I want to make sure you know that Cypress Drive is a 20-mile-an-hour road, and so if it ever is accessed, and there are people that still, I almost got hit the other day with someone racing through and making an illegal left. So I really like what's happening with the divisions in the road. I think it's going to help this neighborhood and hopefully help this development as well. I think we all need to be aware that the application Waze makes people cut through neighborhoods, and if they were to access that and access out onto Cypress, people would take Mar Vista, they would go through this development, they would cut through Cypress and keep going, because that's what Waze will tell them to do. So I want to be sure that we're all on the same page of the cut-through situations that are happening to get from the 15 to the 78 and using Monte Vista and all of that those are addressed as well. I would like less units, I really would. I'm grateful that it's not 50-some that they thought they could have. But I just would like to see this kind of worked out a little bit to make sure that it really is an asset in this neighborhood. There's 100 more units that are going to be built that are not there yet. We haven't seen. It took me 9 minutes to get across the freeway tonight on Mar Vista to get to Santa Fe. 9 minutes. And so all these are going to impact, and then there's a whole other development that's going to be built down further south. So we don't have the traffic circle in. I just would like everybody just to slow it down a little bit and let some of these things get developed and see what's happening to our neighborhood and make sure that it's safe out there on Cypress or on Santa Fe for those people that are going to move in there with their kids. Also, I don't think a gym and a dog park are amenity. I think a swimming pool is an amenity. I think that's what kids want to do. That's what families want to do in the summertime. So I mean, I get it, fun, hip, but I kind of think a swimming pool would be a better amenity. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Susan Klein?
Hello, I'm Susan Klein, and I live on White Birch Drive. I used to live on White Birch Drive. I live over on Montgomery, and Montgomery is right up next to South Santa Fe. And we take South Santa Fe all the time. And when I hear 35 units with 2-car garages, that is 70 more cars that are coming out. They're using Mar Vista, that are using South Santa Fe and going down to the little street that goes over to University, which is Robolini, and that is a nightmare. If anybody is going to go down there and decide that they're going to go to Target, They're headed down to Robolini, and it's crazy. If you go down during the times when people are coming back from work, you have to wait for a long time just to get over to South Santa Fe and the other way around. So I don't think the infrastructure is there for this kind of adding on to the population at this point. I think that the infrastructure needs to be addressed before all of this we can continue adding more and more apartments and people, and Lord, that we would just have that time to think about how we're going to get people over to the 78. The ways that we have right now are just not cutting it. So I thank you for listening, and I hope that you make wise decisions. Thank you.
Crystal Thomas Della? I'm sorry.
Hi, my name is Crystal Thomas Delara. I live at 1278 Cypress Drive. I am one of those families that has children. We just moved. We bought our house last year. I lived in Vista my whole life. Grew up on Buena Creek, one way in, one way out. Go up to the 15, out to the 78. If you go there now, traffic is so horrible. My fear for Cypress and for this development that's here, for anyone to say that small, young families are not going to purchase this and it's going to be young, married couples and whatnot, has to be out of their mind. Of course, young families are going to move into places like this. We don't have very many elementary schools. I have 4 kids in elementary school right now, ridiculously overcrowded. My nephew goes to Monte Vista. My children go to Lake because that's where they started. There's 30 kids in each class. It's outrageous. When we have to leave to go anywhere, as my neighbors have mentioned, it's right turn only. Right turn in, right turn out only, that's going to cause major accidents, severe traffic up and down South Santa Fe. I don't know if you guys have driven there recently. I'm going to assume that you have. But from about York, where the Sprinter crosses, all the way down to just past Civic Center is 2 lanes, but everything else is a single lane. We're coming to and from work, to and from school, shopping. Again, as my neighbors have mentioned, it's outrageous. Going up and over to Mar Vista, trying to get to the 78, to get to the 15 or to the 5, traffic. Add in the Sprinter that was just recently, within the last decade, put in over there, that causes holdups as well. And then for us to put in this immediately, either at the same time or immediately after the other proposed plan, I just think that that's ridiculous. Let's see, emergency roads. We have Cypress going out closed, as everybody has mentioned, but to make that an emergency road, we only have one way out. If they need to access or get up there, I mean, that kind of puts us in jeopardy, and now we really only have the other option, to get out of whatever we need to get out of. Looking at this, it looks like they really cut into the hill. I live right on that edge. My neighbor across the way from me, her backyard will be overlooking this. And earlier in the plan where it showed the actual topography, it looks like they literally are going super far into that slope. And God forbid, what are the houses up there going to do? I mean, is there really an engineer that's going to put up some type of a giant wall so that hill doesn't just come falling down? Steel beams or something? I mean, it doesn't make sense. The parking, I feel like parking will be an issue even with 2-car garages. Lots of families have more than 2 cars. Are they going to go park on South Santa Fe? If you go to Sunrise Cafe, you see their parking lot's really small, and a lot of times in the mornings, they'll park on South Santa Fe right where we're turning right. We don't necessarily have a problem with that right now. It's been like that for decades since I was a child, but adding this community and then expecting them to stay in there where parking should be ample for them, I'm not exactly sure that would work. And then the noise and the crime, that always comes with more buildings, more people moving in. That's something that I fear for, especially with my children, and we saw a spike in that when the Sprinter, when they put in more and more stops, Buena Creek especially, there was a huge influx of it all the way down there. And I hate to see our quality of life go down a bit because we need more and more housing. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Sophia Ramos?
I'm Sophia Ramos. I live on Crescent Drive. One of my concerns was what Crystal just brought up was schools. Schools right now have between about 31 to 34 kids per class, per teacher. And it's going to go up. Not just because of this, it's just going up because of all the development that's been going on. Add this on top of what's also going across the street, where are the kids going to be going to school? Us in the school district already, that has been a problem for many years. Adding hundreds of families on top of that, where are the kids going to go? You guys are just going to pass on problems to the school district. Who does that affect? Our kids. Another problem I see. Last year, I was talking to some police. They already told us that. He told me that. I told him, why aren't you guys, more cops around? Because on Crescent they speed a lot. And he told me, well, we don't really have cops. We're barely making it as it is. Us, a little bit of cops that we have already we're being stretched out. We need to go here, we need to go there, we need to go everywhere. We don't have enough police for us people who already live here. And then you guys want to add development for every empty corner that there is in Vista? What's going to happen? Quality of life is going to go down. When we call the cops, we're going to have hundreds more people calling the cops, whether for parking or, dogs barking or whatever it may be. Crime is going to go up. Then besides the school, you guys are going to add more problems to the school district. You guys are going to add more problems to the sheriffs that we already have. And you guys, developers don't think about those things. They don't think about the quality of life that the people who live here already have. As it is, it's not even appropriate for us living here already. And you guys want to add development in every corner that there is in the city? I don't have nothing against the developers because I know we do need housing, especially, low income. But along with that, it's a lot more problems, like besides the traffic. I'm not even going to mention that because you guys already know what problems that's going to cause. The children, the police. You guys are just going to add problems, and, I
Could
oppose
you summarize your thoughts?
That was it, because everything has already been brought up. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Is it Saran Seymour? I'm sorry. I'm having a hard time reading your writing. So straighten me out.
Sharon Seymour.
Sharon Seymour. All right. Thank you, Sharon.
I live at 1210 Cypress Drive. I've been there been on Cypress since 1974, so over 40 years. My grandma still lives there, who's 98. My parents in their early 80s. My brother is building a new house on the street. We have 5 properties altogether. So we actually own a large parcel that may be developed at some point down the road. But I'm a realtor, my husband's a contractor, so we're very knowledgeable of the development, and we realize why developers are interested in Vista and North County. It's a great place to live, but there's also available land that's not available in Oceanside and other areas. So it is definitely interesting to the developers, and the fact that the lot across the street was already changed from commercial to multifamily, and now more multifamily, and then another multifamily down the road. I mean, I don't feel like, as already been said, that we have the infrastructure to handle this many multifamily projects. We only have two options. We can get off on Civic Center, we can get off on Mar Vista, and either way, you're stopped continually all the way down the road before you can get to Santa Fe to get home. If Sycamore was developed, or the end of South Santa Fe where it dies into Buena Creek and Sycamore and was widened and the flow of traffic was okay, maybe we could handle a little bit more. But right now, with only two ways to get all these thousands of people home, it doesn't make sense to add more density in multifamily housing in this area. As far as the project itself, I personally like modern, but not this modern. It seems too, I think Commissioner Jackal was very kind, and what she said about the design, to me, it looks cheap, it looks cost-effective and inexpensive, and I feel like this is a beautiful part of Vista, that we should have our buildings look as beautiful as Shadow Ridge or Carlsbad, or any of the areas, not try to make it cheap and low cost to keep prices down. People are paying $550, for nice condominiums and other in Shadow Ridge and other areas. So I don't know why we'd want to cheapen the aesthetics. We want to keep the neighborhood looking beautiful. I think a semi-modern, like you said, Commissioner Bell, where you said to take the architecture and add, a modern ranch or something to kind of tie into more, so the aesthetics were more conducive with the surrounding properties and neighborhoods. I think that would be great. I think the landscaping looks really like it could use more landscaping and more of a country feel to make it look like it fits into the neighborhood. And then I'm wondering what kind of gate is being put in for the fire to block that off. Is it like a solid? Is it something that's going to look good, or how are they blocking that off? What's that going to look like so that it's aesthetically pleasing? At density, at 35, they probably can't get more on there because of the topography. So I'm glad it's not more, but obviously with the traffic conditions, I would like to see us just slow down on what we're approving so that we make it right for the neighborhood, for our children, and just keep it beautiful. And it does need to be developed. It's kind of an eyesore the way it's been dug out of the hill, and it's been sitting there a long time, and it is not attractive the way it is. So I'm actually glad that it would be developed, but I just hope we do it right and make it look right and make it a benefit to the neighborhood instead of the other way around. So thank you for listening to me.
Thank you. Mike, who lives at 1215 Cypress Drive.
Good evening, City Council. My name is Mike Buscemi. I live at 1215.
We're the Planning Commission.
Planning Commission.
Okay.
Planning Commission, sure enough. Okay. City of Vista. How's that? Thank you.
Yeah, that would make me mayor.
Okay,
I'm not
all
going
right.
to do that.
A lot of meetings. So I think a lot of us have spoken about the proposals across the street, and now we're talking about yet another development that's very high density for the neighborhood. I think Sharon and everyone else has done a great job of explaining and articulating some of the concerns I think that we all share here. I would like to stress, though, one point. Is there a chance we can go to one of those slides, the slide that had the overlay? Because I think a visual would help just reinforce, I think, a lot of our concerns about the density. I wish I had my own PowerPoint slides. I'd bring them here. But it was a little bit back further. A couple more. I want everyone to see here, because we don't have the luxury of going on a field trip right now to see what the neighborhood looks like and the makeup of the neighborhood. So we're going back a little further. You had a nice slide where you overlaid the proposal of the right there, that one right there. I mean, this I think speaks volumes here. Look at the layout of the homes in the surrounding area, and then now look at the inset. It just doesn't fit. I mean, I know we've talked about some infrastructural concerns here. We have problems with traffic right now. Right now we have problems with traffic there. Coming in from Mar Vista down Santa Fe. Santa Fe is, it's a road, but it's really a highway. It's treated like a highway. I don't see how 100 units on one end and now there's 35 units here that are proposed here are going to help in any way. It's just going to compound the problem that we already have right now. So we're really here just to plead to be smart about the development in this area. This is a very unique part of Vista here. I graduated Vista High School in 1989. I've lived here my whole life, and I'm watching the development unfold beneath my eyes. And I like what you've done downtown. I feel like that supports higher density. This area does not. I think 35 units is too much. I think out of the 3.3 acres that it's listed, I would beg to guess 15 or 20% of that is slope. I mean, it's a very massive slope going up to those homes. I'd say maybe 100, 200 feet up. So I don't see how 35 homes can fit there. When we drove by today, we took a good look at it, me and my wife and the kids, and we drove by and we were looking at it, we were talking about 35 homes. I could see maybe 3 that would fit in this neighborhood. If we had 3 or 4 in that lot, it would have a more logical fit with what we're seeing in that neighborhood here. 35 is too much. So that's my main concern. I'll leave it at that. I think the density is too high. Let's reconsider density on all these projects here. We have an infrastructural problem. Let's not compound it and make it worse. Please, you're custodians, right, of our city. So let's think strategically here and not just build wherever we can and go up, because the existing neighborhoods are depending on you guys to make smart decisions. So I thank you for your time.
Thank you. And my last speaker slip is for Clint Wick.
Hi, Commissioners. My name is Clint Wick. I live at 1325 Cypress Drive, which would be directly across the street from the fire access of this projected. I'm the last house on Cypress before you get to Santa Fe. My concern is in front of my home quite often, and I'm going to beat the dead horse, it's a parking issue. There's been stolen cars out front. There's been vagrants, homeless that park out in that area. So my concern would be if they build this, I'd like to make sure that our street is a no parking zone on the one side of the street that is not entrance. My other concern is, so they're doing this project. They're doing the project across the street. Whatever happens to the project that was between the VFW and the parts store, did that go away? Or is that still in the books?
It's still in the works.
It's still on the books. So you're going to compound this project, the other one, and then you're going to throw another one in. Unfortunately, my home looks down on every single one of these projects. So what's that doing for my dollar value? So I just want you to think I'm not alone. All these other families are the same way. I'm just more directly, I forget the word. Anyway, on this project here, again, I'm looking down on everything. So what am I going to see out my front driveway?
We'll figure that out.
That's my major concern, because it's really going to hurt. My wife and I work very hard for what we have, and to see our retirement dreams get crushed by density moving in towards us. We both lived in bad part of Vista for many years, and when we moved into Cypress, we thought we hit gold. So it looks like our golden dreams are getting turned to bronze. So I know I'm beating a dead horse. Thank you for your time. I hope you guys make the right decision. Again, it's not just this project, it's the other 2 that are going to go along with it. And if you can please keep the things you've done with our street are just fantastic, with making an exit right turn only off of Cypress. The way this plan is right here, there's a 4-way stoplight at Mar Vista and Santa Fe. That's the only way people are going to get in and out of that project right there. Anything else is not going to work. But
okay.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Let me explain something to the members of the audience that spoke. This is an early design review. It has not been analyzed by city staff or other agencies, the school district, and they will be coming back here for a public hearing that you'll be noticed about. And in the analysis, especially for the environmental review, public facilities, there'll be a traffic study that's done, and most of the questions that you asked tonight will be answered, hopefully, in that analysis in the staff report. So I would encourage you to stay tuned, pay attention to the environmental document, because it will talk about many of the things that you've raised here tonight. So this is the first step. There are many more to come before the project is approved and built. So we're going to turn now to the commissioners and go through our list of items to be reviewed and get the commissioners' comments, and then we will adjourn. So commissioners, your comments on site design and grading. Commissioner Carroll?
Thank you, Chairman. These units that are along Cypress Drive, it's not entirely clear to me what the building setback is here. It's closer than the homes that are on South Santa Fe, and I see some different dimensions there, but they don't really seem to match. The dimensions didn't seem to match the building distance to the right-of-way.
Yeah, we haven't provided them any comments or anything. They'll have to provide us with setback dimensions and so forth for all the improvements along both street frontages.
Okay.
Setback requirement from a public right-of-way is 20 feet or 50 foot to the center line of the street, whichever's less, or whichever's less. So 20 feet would be the requirement. So I think they show a setback at 20 feet. I don't necessarily think it's from the appropriate location. So we'll make sure that when they submit for their entitlement that we have that information for you.
Okay, thanks. That's I think that's all I have at the moment on that subject.
Commissioner Looney?
Coming back to staff, I'm looking at the grading plan. I think Pasco just did one sheet. On far left edge, APN 180210, lot 51. We've got two 10-foot high retaining walls. There are two 10-foot high retaining walls that are proposed. Is there any, well, let me restate it. If I was the owner of that home with a swimming pool on the edge of that property and there was a 20-foot cut, I'd want some reassurances from the developer that my pool wasn't going to crack or move. So when you build a wall that tall, there will be settlement, and there just may be some impact on that adjacent property owners, not only for lot 51, but also for lot 52. That would be a concern. One of the other things about site design, currently the city has Cypress blocked from Santa Fe, but yet on the, and I know this is preliminary, on the site plan, they're showing new sidewalks. How is the street going to be, how is that barrier going to be provided and maintained with the development of this property? Will that change at all, you know, to keep the cars from going up the hill from Cypress?
Barrier.
Yeah.
The Cypress barrier.
Will that change at all with the...
Actually, it doesn't get changed by this project, but actually I think it was a condition of approval for the project to the south, Sahara Townhomes. I think the improvements, you're talking about the pork shop in that area that does that prevents the left turn out. And I think, as I recall, John, you might know a little bit more about that, but I think that was a part of this, the other project to the south. Is that correct?
That's correct. There was a raised median that's going to be placed there where the K-rail is today as part of the conditions for the project across the street. I think, though, it does provide an opportunity here to look at Cypress and that access and figure out what a hard edge would do that would, A, eliminate parking concerns for the neighborhood, and then be more of a permanent barrier for traffic trying to go north. So we'll look at that with the applicant, but I think there's a possibility of maybe vacating a portion of Cypress through there that would allow them to reduce the width of the street to eliminate parking and also correct that turn issue permanently or in a more permanent situation than just a raised median. So we'll look at that.
Just to have it designed where it doesn't look like it was, a Band-Aid was put on it to make it work.
You bet.
My own comments on the site design, I agree with Commissioner Looney on the first house up on the right-hand side on Cypress, and its pool is going to be overlooking this project, and with the two retaining walls. There's an extensive use of retaining walls in this project. That's how they make it flat, and the walls go up. Want the walls to be plantable. I think they said that they were 8 feet, so they will be plantable, and then additional screening in the pockets. I think I saw that on the landscaping plan. I see that as very important. In the at the entrance and next to Open Space Area 1, there's a large area of paving out in front between units 3 and 4 and 23. I think there's a lot of potential for traffic movement conflicts there. Narrowing that area, making it smaller, and guiding the circulation would be better. And then this is kind of relating to traffic. I think an exhibit that shows the center median on South Santa Fe that is existing and proposed, and then whatever new improvements are going to be made on Cypress to make that barrier permanent for them. I want to see all of that. I want to see all the way over to the traffic signal on Monte Vista, and where all the driveways are, so we can understand how all the turning movements are going to take place. And then the fire access, it's just indicated as 20-foot fire access. Definitely need more information about that. Is it going to be landscaped? Are they going to have the drivable grass turf block? And is there going to be a barrier there? I think are all important. So, any other comments for the applicant on site design? Whoop, there are. Commissioner Carroll.
Well, I was just, I had forgot to talk about this, the emergency access. It's not shown if it's a gate that the fire department has the ability to open, or if it's wide open for everybody to use, and what's keeping that from being utilized on a daily basis if it's just there for emergency access.
Commissioner Garrison.
Yeah, explain the traffic light and why the entrance can't go directly from the traffic light.
Again, this is a proposal that we're bringing to you guys as of right now. We have not analyzed this. We have not looked at the orientation of this compared to the intersection. This is something that the developer has come at an early stage and is providing you guys with kind of a conceptual design. So if that's something that you want them to take a look at, you're more than welcome to express that to them. Everything that you're providing tonight is going directly to the developer, so they're taking thorough notes as of right now, making sure that they can answer these questions. For the public, a lot of the comments that are been heard tonight, we'll have a slide at the public hearing identifying the comment and how they addressed the comment, or how they tried to address the concerns of the Planning Commission as well as the community that spoke tonight. But as I indicated, we haven't worked with them on the design, or we haven't responded to that yet. But if that's something that you want them to take a look at, feel free to provide them those comments, and we can take a look at that after tonight's meeting when they submit a formal application, and we can vet that through our engineering division and all the other departments, fire, access, and so forth, to make sure that it's something that could be considered.
Consider that request made.
Architecture. Comments on the architecture? Commissioner Jackal?
Well, given all the comments and maybe take a look at the modern design and soften it some. And the roofs really need attention as to who's going to see what on them. Just flat is not going to work. Thank you.
Okay. Commissioner Bell?
On the positive side, I like the interior layout. I like the mixture of master bedroom mixed with an open space living room. I think that works really well for what you're shooting for. So good job on that. And I would mirror the comment on the roofs. I think you can add something to maintain your modern goal without leaving boxy buildings there. I think you can just add a little bit that'll make a difference.
Commissioner Kramer?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's already been said, so thank you.
Okay, very good. My comments on the architecture are similar. I question whether modern architecture goes here. I'd rather see it further downtown. I think the neighborhood, especially the project across the street, fits in better with the neighborhood architecturally. But if they want to pursue, it's their right to pursue the modern architecture. The site elevations need to be enhanced, especially the ones that are visible from the public right of way. The site elevations of units 1 and 2, 3, 7, 13, and 14 need to have change in material, change in color, and there is one offset. I prefer to see more. So anyway, those units specifically have to be addressed. And then I disagree with Commissioner Bell, especially on Unit C. I view that as a dual master. There's a bedroom downstairs that's almost the same size as the bedroom upstairs. That could be 2 couples. There could be 4 cars, and you're not parked for 4 cars. So I have a concern about that. You need to address it. Either make it not a dual master or provide more parking. So are the 2 solutions that I see. Okay, we've covered that. The next item is parking and traffic. I think we've discussed that. I would be really curious to see if they couldn't provide access from the traffic signal at Mar Vista. It'll have to go through the parking lot of the little strip center next to it, but they've got an easement. They have easement rights for that center on their property. There might be a switch or a swap, and then they'd have full access at the traffic signal. But anyway, that's something that they should explore and be able to tell us why or why not they can do that. So I think Commissioner Garrison was on the right track there. Any other comments, Commissioner Looney, on parking and traffic?
Actually, I want to go back to architecture.
Oh, okay.
But I think the contemporary architecture is somewhat refreshing. I don't think Vista is really ready for the Bauhaus style, but maybe what we could do is transition that into a modern ranch. Even if you go with a metal roof, I mean, I think some of the massing that you've done with the horizontal and vertical elements, I think works. If somehow you could just integrate maybe a sloped roof with a contemporary finish to where you can still have some of the flavor that you've got in the architecture, because I'm getting tired of looking at the same thing. Every block I go in Vista, and it's it's kind of nice, and I like the color because it's different. But I'm probably one of the few sitting at this counter that thinks that way, but maybe there is a way to create a transition style that you get a balance of both without compromising one style or the other. So, thank you.
Commissioner Jackal?
Okay, I'm back to parking.
Yes.
Is this going to be a condominiums or apartments?
It's a condominium
Okay,
development.
that's what I thought. In that case, is there going to be an HOA? And in that case, the CC&Rs have to be absolutely rigid on having the cars parked in the garage.
Yeah, and typically, I think in our most recent projects, we've had standard conditions that we've wrenched down over the last, 6 to 8 meetings to make sure that we've addressed your concerns. So we'll make sure we put our most recent edition of that condition in there.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Carroll?
I have a question regarding what's being proposed for trash service. If it's going to be various community bins throughout the site, or individual cans that are stored presumably in the garage. And so I'd like maybe next time come back unless somebody already has an answer.
If they haven't addressed that, we typically, in our pre-app meetings, suggest they contact EDCO and confirm that they could even do individual pickup. If not, they'll have to provide actual trash enclosures and so forth. But we typically direct them to go directly to our franchise in order to confirm what would be the acceptable approach.
Okay, yeah, because sometimes these don't get kind of worked into the design, and then they're shoved into the garage, and then there's less room. Then you're not really able to park 2 cars in your garage.
Staff, I know on a regular basis, we're always taking a look at that when we're looking at the size of the garage, and if they don't have the gang unit boxes and so forth, or enclosures, that we do try to make sure that they have the true 2 parking spaces, and those trash bins and the washer and dryer and so forth don't encroach into that space.
And Commissioner Garrison.
I would like to see, when it comes back to us, an analysis of the neighborhood relative to where people can park. In other words, if you have everybody with 3 cars, where could they park? Meaning, right in front of this, there's no parking on Santa Fe, correct?
That's correct.
And on Cypress, there's no parking.
I think the intention was to not have parking.
But in front of the Sunrise Cafe on Santa Fe, there is parking. So the people that live in this complex could park over there and walk over, which would create a major problem for Sunrise Cafe and those businesses along there. So what I'm asking for is an analysis of where overflow of parking from this development, where people could park, and what impact that would have on the neighborhood, especially the commercial neighborhood. In other words, if people have 3 cars and the first car there parks on Santa Fe in front of the Sunrise Cafe on the street, is that going to create a major problem?
We can show you where cars can park around there.
That's all I'm asking.
But we can't guarantee that people from this project are going to park there.
I totally agree. I just want to have some feel for what that option people may take.
Also worth noting that this project meets our latest parking standards, so it's about 2.8 spaces per unit.
All right, let's move on to landscape and amenities. Any comments on the landscaping or amenities? Commissioner Jackal?
Okay, I just want to echo Commissioner Garrettson's comments about the amenities for children. That's just essential.
Commissioner Garrison. She coming? Okay, all right. I tend to agree. I think these are 2 and 3 bedroom units, and there are going to be families living here, even if it's marketed to young adults. And so we need amenities for children. The other projects that we've seen come through have provided pools after we've commented on it. So I would take a serious look at that. Otherwise, I thought the landscaping did a nice job of blending into the hillside and taking care of the retaining walls. So, any other questions or comments on the landscaping? And then other comments. Any other comments on the project? Commissioner Carroll?
I will say that I do appreciate the 30-foot driveway entrance width, and I think that's very helpful on these types of projects, is to not go with bare minimum there. So I do really like that there.
Commissioner Bell?
Thank you, Chairman. I just wanted to say thank you to the public for speaking. Your comments matter. I know it's not easy to come and show up and sit here for hours, and it's not just you, but other neighborhoods, other people who contribute. It really does matter when you come to these meetings. And we have limited power up here. We're doing our best, and we're part of the community. I live on Cypress and Alta Vista, pretty close to this thing. So I'm impacted too in minimal ways, but it matters. And also vote. Whatever way you vote doesn't matter, but vote next year because it matters. So that's how you make an impact.
Commissioner Looney?
Just a comment on the landscaping. We've got a lot of decomposed granite, and things don't grow very well on that decomposed granite. So we've just got to be mindful, and I think the applicant needs to be mindful of what can be landscaped, what cannot realistically. It's easy to draw pretty trees and bushes that are green and grays, but in reality, you got a lot of decomposed granite, and it's going to be tough to grow anything out of that. So just be mindful in the plant palette that it's going to be conducive to whatever we can do to those cut slopes.
Very good. My only final comment is on the density. The neighborhood should understand that the general plan and the zoning allow up to 15 dwelling units per acre. They have chosen to go at 10 and do townhouses. They're for sale, which is something this commission has been after. We approved an awful lot of for-rent apartments throughout the city, and this is a direction that we've been encouraging for townhouses and for the units to be for sale because there's pride of ownership in those. So the project, as we're looking at it, is consistent with what the vision for the city is. So that's what we're working from. Any other comments from the commissioners? Okay. That concludes our consideration of the project. Staff, any questions of the commission?
I do. I have one question.
Sure.
Yeah, in regards to architecture. We've had a few different comments tonight. I just want to make sure the applicant gets direction. What I've heard is that contemporary or modern design could be acceptable if we incorporated additional enhancements. We made sure the buildings were enhanced on all 4 sides, and that we tried to bridge the gap between the surrounding neighborhood and this project and try to create some consistency there and help complement what's there already. So if I've kind of wrap that up, I just want to make sure that they know and that they're not completely redesigning their project, or if they should redesign their project. But it sounds as though if they spend a little bit more time on fine-tuning the project, that it would be acceptable at a later date then.
Very good. Okay. That concludes this item. The next item on our agenda is a report from our Community Development Director, Mr. Conley.
Thank you, Chairman. I don't have a lot to report tonight. We will have a meeting on February 6th. That's our next meeting. There'll be a couple items on the agenda. One is a discussion on the downtown specific plan residential neighborhoods based on some of the earlier design review meetings that we had for some projects down there. So we're I'll cover all the neighborhoods and the standards, and we can hopefully get some direction from the commission on if you'd like to see any changes, and then we'll take that to the city council later this year. As far as activity on the development side, we have a couple projects under construction. We have the famous Dave's demo permit was issued, so they should be tearing that building down here. And the car wash on East Vista Way is under construction. The building at the corner of Anza and East Vista Way is being remodeled. You've seen that. I've gotten a lot of questions about that. It's an eyeglass retail store that it's going to be. But they're just doing a facade enhancement. The couple projects under construction, South Vista 2, the 47 condo project down there, Buena Vista Drive, and South Melrose is going. Breeze Hill Apartments is being built, Vista Village next to the grocery store. So there's quite a bit of residential development happening right now.
Okay. I had on Warmlands, the Colucci's
Yes.
tentative map saw surveying stakes out along the right-of-way.
So looks like that property is going to get active again. The map was approved in 2015, maybe. They just got a one-year extension to later this year. They're still eligible for one more one-year extension, but the engineers contacted us to start it up.
Okay, very good. Commissioners, any questions for, Commissioner Looney?
And this is, John, for you. On some of the properties that we've been looking at, for example, this one, Cypress Edge, we've got 3.5 acres, and there's a certain percentage of slope that makes this property unbuildable. But yet, all the codes and the policies are set up for that 3.5 acre. Is there a way in which we could adjust the density based upon
Percentage of slope?
Percentage of slope?
Sure.
Because in other parts of the county, if there's anything over 25%, I can't touch it.
Right, slope protection ordinance in the county. Yeah, we could do a comparable thing if
Because
the
I think,
commission wants to do that.
We've seen a couple projects where it really just doesn't make sense because they're not going to be able to plant that slope because it's all decomposed granite.
Yeah, we've crossed that bridge on some other projects too, so good comment. We can certainly look at that.
There used to be a formula a long time ago where you calculated the average slope of a piece of property, and the density was adjusted depending on what the average slope of the property was. You'd have to go back and look at historical records
before my time, but I'll
to find
check it
that one.
out.
Yeah.
I mean, we can certainly go back and look at that. We'll do a sort of zoning code update discussion with the commission to get your input before we go through our annual zoning update, and that's one of the things we can add to the list.
Okay, very good. Commissioner Kramer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Conley, put on your thinking hat. This goes back a few years, and I'm not sure if it was your project or Ms. Chow's, but Vista Village Drive or Vista Way at Palm, a triangular lot, and it was a housing project, and
Yes.
they wanted to
We
build
did
some
an early design review meeting, but they
purple
never went any
units.
further.
Yeah.
So that's actually a city-owned property. We had some issues with a neighboring property owner because there were some easement issues that were unresolved when the Vista Village Drive was built. We've recently, I think, settled those, and so the applicant has been in contact with Mr. Ressler. He is talking about moving his project forward, but we haven't seen any formal resubmittal yet.
Okay. And then one last question. Zoning C1 allows or does not allow cabinet shops?
No, the carpentry and those types of heavier commercial uses are C2 or C3.
Okay, I'll talk after the meeting. Thank you.
Yep.
All right. One more? Commissioner Bill, sorry.
Any update on the streetlight building downtown?
They are supposed to start grading in February, is what they've told us. So we have a grading permit that's pretty much ready to issue. They're just getting their financing wrapped up.
And there was a notice that came out today for updating the city's...
I'm glad you mentioned that. We have a community meeting Monday night at 6 p.m. for our climate action plan update. We've hired a consultant through Sandag to update that plan. It basically identifies long-term goals for reducing our emissions citywide. It really only focuses on our municipal operations and what the city can control, but we are going to review that plan consistent with what a lot of the other jurisdictions in San Diego are doing right now. And the community meeting will be to take input, explain the process, and take input from the public on anything they'd like us to consider in that update.
That meeting is at the Morris Vance Community Center because Parks and Rec is meeting here.
And we will be bringing an update to the commission following those public meetings to give you some of the information that we receive at those public meetings as well.
Okay. And then there was a public meeting on the, all I can think of it, the strawberry fields right now on the north end of town.
Yes.
We had a scoping meeting for the EIR?
Correct. Scoping meeting for the EIR. They've kicked that off. It's under preparation. They got a lot of comments on all kinds of issues and concerns, from wildfire to agriculture to traffic, you name it. So it'll be a very thorough EIR.
Okay. There was an article that came out in the paper, and I've seen other articles like on 60 Minutes about agri-hoods, where they combine agricultural operation with single-family homes and produce crops there. So I thought that this might be an appropriate location for that also. Too late to get project alternatives?
Yeah, contacting the property owner.
Okay. All right. Any other comments or questions for staff? All right. Then we will stand adjourned until February 6th.